Well, howdy doody, geographers. It's time to talk about how sustainable growing cities are. Yes, thinking about how the fact that, everyone's moving to cities, we've got a sustainability problem. So, how can we make those cities more sustainable? Let's find out. We got a couple of learning goals for you here, and they are you're going to know the future of urbanization. And as I've suggested, it's getting bigger, more people moving to cities. You're going to be able to create a graph. So I'm going to give you a data table and you're going to create a graph from scratch. Wicked. Okay, couple of terms here. A developing nation means a poor agricultural country trying to become more advanced economically and socially. You often hear people using this phrase, third world. You should not use that phrase. Third world came from the reason why you shouldn't use it is because we use developing nation instead. Yeah, so we divide nations up into developing and developed. Developed nations have complex economies with a wide variety of different industries and a lot of high-tech industries. Developing nations are often, as mentioned, poor farming countries trying to become more developed. The third world thing, that came from the Cold War. So during the most of the 20th century, there was what's called a Cold War between America and Russia. Uh, it's Cold War because they didn't actually go to war directly. They just kind of had a big conflict, and there was various ways that they showed it, right? So the first world was America and its allies, including Australia. Second world was Russia and her allies, and the third world were all the countries that weren't aligned to America or the US or Russia. Now there is no Cold War, so third world doesn't mean anything anymore. So don't ever write about the third world. Just say developing nation. Okay. And so we're in the middle of a big population boom at the moment, and most of those people are going to move into cities, particularly cities in Asia. There you go. By 2030, so that's only a few years away, less than a decade, almost half of all people on Earth will live in megacities in developing nations. Um, just as a side note, you might be freaking out about the population of Earth getting ridiculously out of hand. It is ridiculously out of hand, but it is in your lifetimes going to get sorted out. The average family size has dropped heaps, pretty much everywhere in the world. So most demographers, a demographer is someone who studies population statistics. Most demographers think that the world is going to peak at about 9 or 10 billion, and then the population of the world is going to start dropping again. And heaps of countries, the population already is dropping. In fact, Australia, if it wasn't for migration, if it wasn't for people coming from other countries to Australia, Australia's population would be going down. Why? Because family sizes are less than enough to keep their population steady. Have a think about how few families have more than 2 kids these days. So if you go and speak to your parents and your grandparents, families used to be way bigger. Anyway, here's a cool diagram. This shows you, first thing to do, remember, is to figure out what it's about. So read the title, scan around. It's about countries with a majority of urban population. Majority means more than half. I had some chats with some students recently who thought that majority meant 70%. Majority means 50% plus one. Yeah, more than half. So in 1950, only the countries shaded dark had more than half their population urbanized, and by 2050, it's going to be almost the whole world. Yeah. So which countries urbanized first? Australia, New Zealand, Europe, North America. Yeah, what do they all have in common? They're all rich, developed countries. So as your country gets richer and more developed, more people move to cities. Here's a cool graph showing. Oh, I didn't include the title for this one. Sorry. So in the blue number is the population of that city right now. The black number is the population by 2030. 2025, there it is right there, sorry. So by 2025, that's these, so have a look at some of these cities are getting massive, right? Karachi's almost doubling in size. Dhaka in Bangladesh is, yeah, it's almost doubled its size. Some very big size increases there, yeah. So most of the big mega cities you're finding are in Asia. Right, what about the future for Australia in all of this? So we're talking about the future of Australia's demography, yeah, the future of the statistics of Australia's population. There will be more people living in cities, and we already have heaps. We're about 89% urbanised in Australia already. There will be more old people, yeah, less babies being born, people are living longer, so the average age is way older. There's going to be worse traffic. Houses are going to be more expensive. How can they possibly get more expensive than they already are? They're very expensive. Lots of people won't be able to access parks, schools and hospitals because the population is going to increase because of migration, but the government probably won't build enough schools and hospitals to meet that demand. This is all just predictions. Hopefully it doesn't all come true. And in rural areas, you're going to see people moving away from rural areas to cities. So how can rural areas stop the people draining away to the cities? They can have better internet and better public transport. Yeah, I'm not saying anyone's moving from the countryside to the city because of the internet, but the internet in a lot of rural areas is really bad, and I'm sure many of you have experienced that over the last couple of years. So Australia in the future, what might Sydney look like? There you go, that's what someone thought. Lots of shiny buildings. So it's exactly the same, just the buildings are taller. And here is a projection of Australia's population. So currently we are about here. Yeah, it's about right, 2021, 26 million, spot on so far. But then they give you three different projections. Green is the high projection, light green is the middle projection, blue is the low projection. So it's going to fall somewhere. Well, it's going to be one of those three scenarios. We don't know which one. Remember, the only reason Australia's population is going up is because of migration. So if the migration ends, then maybe we will be closer to this one. Who knows? But by the end of by the time you guys are my age, Australia's going to have over 30 million people. Yeah. Okay, activity time. Here is a data table. Turn it into a graph. I just want you to turn the totals into a graph. Yeah. Total. That one there. Do it on graph paper, or do it. Yeah, don't just hand draw the lines. You need to use a ruler. One of these puppies. The lines need to be straight. Should that be a bar graph or a line graph? I'll leave that up to you to decide. Bar graphs are good for showing comparisons. Line graphs are good for showing change over time. So maybe there's a hint in what I just said there. Graphs need to have belts, that's border. So you need a border on the outside of your whole graph. Label the axes, so label this thing and label this thing. You need a legend. If you've got colors on your graph, tell me what the colors mean. A title for the graph. You could probably use a similar title to the data table. And a source. Where did you get the information from? And that's written right there. Finally, once you've made your graph, write 2 or 3 sentences explaining what we can learn from your graph. Sweet. Time for a couple of videos. This first one's called Creating Sustainable Cities. Check it out.
Cities are our future. By the year 2050, more than 70% of the world's population will live in one. But how will our world cope under the strain of 3 billion more city dwellers? Together, cities already consume 80% of material and energy resources and produce 75% of all carbon emissions. Their high concentration of people and infrastructure make them vulnerable to the impacts of climate change, like rising sea levels, higher temperatures, and storm damage. And in the developing world, many cities are growing faster than the infrastructure that is needed to support them. Sustainability is the key, and cities are striving for it. Where cities are sustainable, they are more competitive, more attractive to people and investment, more able to lift their citizens out of poverty and provide them with a great place to live, work, and play. All over the world, cities, rich and vibrant in their own cultures, are shaping their own ambitious plans for their sustainable futures, but sharing common aims. To take real action on climate change. To encourage economic development to the benefit, not the detriment, of the environment. To become more resilient to disasters and a changing climate. To improve the quality of life and well-being of citizens, fostering supportive and inclusive communities in which everyone can thrive. And to take advantage of smart technologies to improve the efficiency of infrastructure and provide citizens with better, more responsive services. But how? Even the most advanced cities can't make this journey alone, and that's where business can help. All over the world, behind the drive towards a sustainable urban future, are businesses dedicated to finding and implementing the best solutions. They're leading the way when it comes to creating integrated systems of urban infrastructure, where buildings, energy, mobility, water and waste, and communications operate more efficiently and sustainably for the benefit of everyone. But, too often, their expertise is introduced too late in the planning life cycle to be of full benefit. And there can be barriers which stop valuable dialogue taking place. That's why the World Business Council for Sustainable Development established the Urban Infrastructure Initiative, or UII, an innovative model for early collaboration between cities and business. It's a simple idea. In 10 cities around the world, experts from 14 leading companies and municipal governments gathered around one table. Working together, they identified new approaches to realizing the city's visions of a sustainable future. Innovative, practical solutions emerged, producing real benefits for the cities and their sustainability programs. Could this new approach work for your town too? We think so. Everyone wins. Cities, by identifying solutions that can make their sustainability aspirations a reality. And business, by unlocking markets for new services and products essential in creating the sustainable cities of the future. To find out more, go to wbcsd.org/urban-infrastructure.aspx.
Got one more video for you. It's about cities of the future. I love the future, so I think you'll enjoy this one.
This video was sponsored by the Nick Morn Foundation. What will the cities of the future look like? By 2050, the world's population is expected to reach 9.8 billion, and nearly 70% of these people are expected to live in urban areas. In this video, we are going to be taking a look at some of the most sustainable cities which are currently under construction.
From smart, high-tech cities to forest cities, we will be taking a closer look at what urban life is going to be like in 2050. The world's first forest city, created to fight pollution, is now under construction in Luzhou, China. It has been designed by Stefano Boeri architects, who have been developing green projects all around the world.
The futuristic forest city will be home to a community of about 30,000 people. It will be covered in greenery, including nearly 1 million plants and 40,000 trees that together absorb almost 10,000 tons of carbon dioxide.
As a result, the forest city will help to decrease the average air temperature, improve local air quality, create noise barriers, nurture habitats, and improve local biodiversity in the region.
Similarly, in Malaysia, a forest city has already completed its first phase of construction. The project is planned to be completed in 2030. It is said to cost $100 billion and will house 700,000 people.
The plan is for the project to be a green oasis that uses the latest green and sustainable technology. However, the city is being placed in a region of mangrove forests, which are incredibly important for infant sea life. The developers are planning to combat these issues by planting a 250-hectare seagrass plantation and 9 kilometers of mangroves.
Now over in the United Arab Emirates, a project called the Sustainable City has already been built. This 5 million square foot sustainable city is designed to be a net zero development and has the potential to go off-grid.
The city has 500 homes, all powered by solar panels. All water is recycled on site, there are no cars, and the complex grows its own vegetables in 11 biome greenhouses.
Also in the UAE is the Masdar city, which is set to be completed in 2025. The city developers have aspirations for this to be the most sustainable city on Earth.
The city was designed to be zero carbon and zero waste, home to a population of 40,000 people with an additional 50,000 commuters, in an area of only 6 square kilometers.
The city remains around 15 degrees Celsius cooler than the surrounding area, because the streets and buildings of Masdar city are specially designed to be in line with the traditional Arab design, which uses natural materials to deflect the scorching desert sun.
This self-sufficient project close to Beijing has recently been designed by Guayart Architects.
The buildings in the city are to be constructed entirely from timber and are designed to use 80% less energy than traditional buildings by utilising solar panels, natural ventilation and green roofs for insulation.
The architects even incorporated greenhouses for growing food.
Architecture firm Bjarke Ingels Group has designed a concept for a floating city of 10,000 people that could help populations threatened by extreme weather events and rising sea levels.
It is called the Oceanic City, and the concept consists of buoyant islands clustered together in groups of 6 to form villages. Oceanic City is intended to provide a habitable offshore environment in the event of rising sea levels, which are expected to affect 90% of the world's coastal cities by 2050.
In 2018, work began on a new city in the Philippines that is intended to be pollution-free and resilient to natural disasters. The new Clark City is still being constructed, about 100 kilometers north of the capital, Manila.
This city is being built as a backup city from where the government can still function should capital city Manila succumb to a natural disaster such as an earthquake, typhoon, or flooding. Plans to make the city pollution-free include using green energy and constructing buildings that consume very little energy. The first phase of development is estimated to be complete in 2022.
The city of Amaravati in India is being built with the goal of becoming one of the most sustainable cities in the world. The architects, Foster & Partners, want at least 60% of the city to be covered in greenery or water.
Its estimated completion date is 2025. Solar energy will power every building in Amaravati, while the transport system will include electric cars and water taxis.
Over to China now, where they have designed an entirely car-free city. The city will be built on a stretch of reclaimed land by Pearl River and will be connected to the rest of Shenzhen by bridges, ferries and subway.
The developer, American firm NBBJ, says it will accommodate 80,000 people and take around 7 years to complete. Once in the city, commuters and visitors alike will traverse Net City on foot or by bicycle. Which was your favorite city from this video? Let us know in the comments below, and please hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed this video. What is going to happen in the cities that have already been built?
Well, if you want to learn more about this, then you should take a look at this video, which we did on the current most sustainable cities.
And our reflection activity is something a little bit creative. We're going to do a sense poem. So thinking about Asian megacities, so, Mumbai, Tokyo, Dhaka, Kuala Lumpur, Bangkok, all of those huge megacities in Asia with over 10 million people. I'm going to do a sense poem. So imagine that you're in an Asian megacity. What do you see? So you've got to complete these sentences. What do you feel? What do you smell? Food. What do you taste? And what do you hear? There you go. There's the sense poem. So do that, fill that out in your book. Upload your notes and stuff. You know the drill. Sweet as. Thank you so much for taking part. And don't forget, keep it real.